I've had a chance to play Streets of Rage 4 at no less than 4 gaming preview events since it was announced in 2018. Before that, as a Sega Genesis player, I've played through each of the originals. I've also been around the block through a wide library of beat-em-ups, from well-known classics like Altered Beast, Final Fight, X-Men Arcade, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. After years of waiting, Streets of Rage 4 is finally here. Does the revitalized franchise hold up in this bare-knuckle arcade brawler? Or is it a relic better left off to the 90s? Find out in our review. If you know Streets of Rage, then you might know full well the previous boss, Mr. X, and his group, the Syndicate. Unfortunately for him, he's been killed for good. However, 10 years after the events of Streets of Rage 3, Wood Oak City's criminal underworld has new management. The Y-Twins, X's children, have taken over and gathered both familiar and new faces for the new scheme to take over the city. Series protagonist Axel Stone and Blaze Fielding return, joined by Cherry Hunter, Floyd Urrea, and later on, fellow original and Cherry's father, Adam Hunter. Together, they're throwing down once more and brawling their way through a city of Syndicate henchmen and gangland goons on their way to the Y-Twins. Right from the get-go, we have to talk about the look of Streets of Rage 4. Everything is done in a hand-drawn and animated style that looks absolutely gorgeous. And more than that, everything looks like it has an age to it. Axel's rocking a muscle gut and classic sneakers, while Blaze looks more mature in her usual dress and stylish jacket. Adam is also far cooler and stoic compared to his more intense original appearances. Everyone else throughout Wood Oak City has similar thoughtful redesigns going on, including new characters like Floyd and Cherry, and enemies like Diva, that all bring an incredibly punk, yet polished aesthetic to the game. Every attack, animation, street, and facility, both dirty and clean, creates what is just a gorgeous arrangement of action and animation from top to bottom. Add a stylish soundtrack that mixes bits of classic Streets of Rage tracks with a grand host of solid thumping background tunes, and you've got a cornucopia of good visuals and sounds to make the whole experience complete. Every one of Streets of Rage 4's characters have a depth of mechanics to them that could be compared to characters in a technical fighting game. That's the sauce in any good brawler. But as I played through Streets of Rage 4, I constantly found myself impressed by just how much each character could do. The game tells you to do the basics. Each character has a regular combo attack, grab attacks, throws, various specials, life-draining power moves, and limited super specials. What it doesn't tell you is the real in-depth stuff, like how Blaze's attacks can bounce down enemies off the ground for excellent juggling, or how Cherry can jump onto enemies' shoulders to wail on them before performing a head scissors leg throw. The level at which you can become acquainted with a character's moveset and learn how to handle both one-on-one and multi-target fights rivals the grind found in full-on technical fighting games. Even most of the enemy bosses have a sort of depth to them that almost makes me think that they could be programmed as playable characters with an extra bit of work. Whatever character fits your style in Streets of Rage 4, or if you want to learn them all, there's a ton to explore with each character of the main roster, and it's extremely satisfying when you put in a working string of attacks together for big damage against everything the game throws at you. This brings up one of the most interesting and challenging aspects of Streets of Rage 4, the hit counter. You'll find that the longer you can chain together attacks against multiple enemies, the more you can grow a bonus that can be cashed in for points if you stop attacking or aren't attacked for a moment. Take a hit during your string and the combo is broken and the points are lost. Points in Streets of Rage 4 aren't just a matter of personal pride and a high score. Getting enough earns you an extra life for survival. Plus, having extra lives at the end of a level can be cashed in for points that unlock in-game extras. The challenge then becomes stringing attacks as much as you can while dodging enemies trying to break the string. It's nerve-wracking when your counter gets high, heartbreaking when a stray enemy punch takes it from you, and glorious when you cash in a huge combo. This is the kind of play that will separate the survivors from the masters in Streets of Rage 4. Streets of Rage 4 is sizable in its length, but it's still an arcade brawler. That means the experience eventually comes to an end boss and some credits. It's got about 12 pretty thick levels that will take quite some learning to overcome with style and good flow. At my absolute best, I was able to knock out a full run in about an hour and 39 minutes, but someone can easily top that, I'm sure. Even so, beating the game isn't the end. First off, there's the aforementioned goodies that can be unlocked with points. If you've followed the coverage of Streets of Rage 4, you may know that the retro characters have been included in the game. The entire playable rosters, plus some surprises from Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3, can be unlocked and played in any mode by earning points, hence why keeping those lives and building up the combo counter matters so much. It's surprisingly fun to take the pixelated cast against the gorgeous enemies and backdrops of Streets of Rage 4 and see how far things have come. But some of the characters are just hilariously viable. Streets of Rage 1's Axel has reach and power that puts the modern character to shame. Unlocking these characters is quite fun and happens as you play most of the modes in the game. There are also other unlockables that don't come from points as well. Beating the game unlocks Arcade Mode, in which you have 5 lives and no continues. Mania difficulty, which is harder than the hardest difficulty, and Boss Rush, in which you can fight all the bosses in the survival gauntlet. There's also a battle mode, which allows you and fellow players to duke it out versus style. Finally, there's a collection of art, concepts, character biographies, and more that are just fun to look through once you've beaten the game. Streets of Rage 4 has a lot of multiplayer options. Offline can be played with up to 4 players, and online can be played with up to 2. Whether you're doing co-op or versus in battle mode, it's quite cool to be able to have a game like this, in which we can so readily throw down with a friend again. But it also brings up one of my very few gripes about the game. You can't play battle mode at all unless you have a second player handy. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but I kind of wish there was at least a verse AI option to have fun within the solo setting. Even having bots fill out the other player slots in the main game would be kind of fun if you wanted to have some backup. If you couldn't get a friend on board at any given time, it's slightly wistful thinking, but also a bummer that battle mode has to be multiplayer. Dotemu, Lizard Cube, and Guard Crush Games played it so close to the chest through years of development, even as they continued to wow players left and right with the glimpses they were showing. Was it worth the wait all this time? 1,000 times over, yes. Streets of Rage 4 is a beautiful amalgam of visuals, sound, and function in a genre that doesn't get near as much love as it used to see. Even though I thought I knew exactly what I was walking into, it still found ways to surprise and delight me consistently. Its challenge is constant, and the ceiling for the best players will likely be raised for a good long time. If it's the last beat-em-up game I play, or watch others play for another 5 years, I can absolutely deal with that because I'll still likely be having fun with it, even then. For more video reviews and everything else gaming related, you're already in the right place. You're on Shacknews.com.